Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hassett Sabbath Fellowship. We are virtual only. We're based out of St. Paul, Minnesota. The phone number works if you'd like to contact me, or you can walk around the lake where I walk all the time and bump into me like two people last night. I feel so sorry for them. Wonderful people, and I just inundated them with so much eschatology. I do the philosophy of eschatology. I do what you need to know, your reality, our existence. I try to solve a little piece of revelation, and our building is closed. This is the ministry for the moment here, unless God says, "Hey, Joel, it's time to get back to work with actual people." But I do get to bump into them, and that was a blessing last night. So I'm not attacking Calvinists or cessationists or continuationists. What I'm going after today is the separation of Ezekiel 34. There seems to be a separation. I'm trying to drop that into Revelation and say, what's the context? What's the timing? What's going on here? Now, I would recommend that you pause the video and read Ezekiel 34 because I won't cover the whole thing today. I can't. There's just too much to cover. But I will cover selected pieces of it, and you'll see that something seems to be happening today where the sheep are being separated from the sheep, okay? And how and why and whatever else. When for that matter, does God separate the sheep from the sheep? What's the means, and I'll show you. We'll see if you agree with me. Now, you can tell already, I'm a continuationist, I'm a futurist. Okay, that means Yeshua's coming in the future, and the verses point to that. But the verses point to a lot of prophecies. I'm a continuationist. That means God's Spirit works. I get taps all the time from God, and I know He helps me put together the videos because as soon as I'm ready to go with something, and then I say I don't feel like doing it, He'll drop some stuff into my lap, and I'll have to do it. So the Calvinists are dear sweet people, but the problem is they're going to be perplexed when God keeps on blessing His land and His people, and that's what's happening right now. Okay, but on the other hand, the hyper charismatics, the NAR people, New Apostolic Reformation people, they're going to be perplexed because they want their increase of wealth, and it isn't going to happen the way they want it to be. In fact, it's going to be horrible inflation, which is basically seal 3. Okay, so someone will be called like filthy sheep. And I don't want it to be me. So how do we work on that? And how does that fit into Revelation? So we're working on it today. Okay. So once again, this is what the Lord God says to you, my flock. I will judge between one sheep and another, between the rams and the goats. Sheep are clean animals. Rams are clean. Goats are clean. God's judging between the clean animals at some point in time. We're discussing it today. We're doing the philosophy of eschatology. We're doing, yes, that mark in the middle. If you're a Roman Catholic or a Lutheran, that's Ash Wednesday. That's as close as I've ever seen to a mark of a Tav. Now, technically in Ezekiel 9:4, it's a writer's graph. It's the ability to write it out, and that seems to be Revelation 9:4. But it is very biblical, people, when you look carefully at Ezekiel 9:4, that part of the prophecy seems to match up with Revelation. We try not to twist the Bible. We try to give you real news. We do the philosophy of the end of days. Okay, so what's going on right now? This isn't supposed to be the video, but you have to see these things are happening. 1 Peter 4:17 through 18 is, for the time has come for the judgment to begin. It begins with the household of God. And if it starts with us, what will be the outcome? What will the outcome be for those who are disobeying God's good news? If the righteous is barely delivered, where will the ungodly and the sinful end up? Okay, raise your hand if you loved Rafi Zacharias for all those years. I'm one of those guys raising my hand right now. Literally, I am. I loved Rafi. And it hurt me to realize that he had damaged this young lady, Thompson, and he had a burner phone set up so that he could talk to her directly, and it was supposed to block her, but so Ravi fell, okay? And I don't know if it's a millstone type of a situation, but it was bad. Now the other guy on the other side here, so everybody knows Ravi in the middle, is Mike Bickle. I have been very nice to Mike over the years, but I was also warned by the Holy Spirit not to go down to his place, IHOP in Kansas City. Why? Well, because Mike would walk up to young ladies and say, I'm married to my 40-year-old wife, and I'm 40, and he would be at that point in time. He's about my age. 65-ish. And so he would walk up to these young 20-year-old women and say, I have a prophecy for you. My wife is going to die, and when she dies, you're going to be my wife. In the meantime, you get to be my concubine, so I get all those favors from you. You know what I mean? And oh my, he abused these poor people. And Steve Strang on the side there is saying, is he predator and prey? He's predator. He is. And so Mike is kind of thinking he's going to step aside from IHOP while the legal investigation is happening. What? That's millstone time. Okay, he caused little ones to fall because he had a harem of young women that he just found to be attractive in addition to his wife. So I prophesy you're a hot little concubine. Don't tell my wife. There you go. That's my opinion of the whole thing. So this is not to demonize these men, because in many ways they were called by God to do what they did, and then they fell away. It's more about what's happening as the sheep are being separated from the sheep. Okay, and the leaders especially too. That's Ezekiel 34. How does that plug into Revelation? We'll get there. Don't worry. God tests your heart by Hamas war feelings. So yes, I know God does not test mankind, but the test is set up. You choose how you pass or fail the test, and that test, I believe, is how you feel about Israel. Do you believe in Genesis 12:3, which is, I will bless those that bless you, and curse those that curse you? How do you feel about that? Well, if you say, oh, I want the blessings, then you're in. If you want the curses, you're going to get the curses. So I don't care if the Jews don't believe in Jesus your way. I really don't care. Okay? That's God's problem. Don't curse them in the meantime. So Israel is flipping from a secular state. It was completely secular in 1948, 49. It was mostly secular in 67. It's going Orthodox right now. Now, they don't believe in Jesus, but they do believe in God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And they are doing the Torah. And God will deal with them in his own way, okay? With all of us, okay? But in the meantime, just because they don't pick up and become, your type of a Christian with your particular verbiage and things like that, give them some grace, okay? And give grace to other people that don't believe your way too. So in the meantime, there's the test. Israel, Gaza, how it's tearing your family and friends apart. Okay, fine. That's what's occurring. Yep. And then this is in Minnesota. This is a Jewish guy from St. Louis Park dehumanizing Minnesota Democrats infighting on Israel-Hamas war boils over. Well, he's going to support Jews because he's Jewish, but he's a Democrat. And so it isn't working out very well because they hate him. And there's nothing worse. I have a very close friend that was running for mayor of St. Paul as a Democrat, and I said, "Oh, Jerry, they hate you. They booed you off the stage. Come on over to our party." He said, "I'm not really a Republican." I said, "Come on over." And I supported him. Back then, I had a lot of money, and I gave him stuff to, free copiers and things like that. And so he lost. But you know what? He came over and he became more of a libertarian. So anyway, the war itself is going to force you to take a stand with or against Israel. Okay, and let's see here. What did I say on the right-hand side? His situation resembles many across the United States and the rest of the world as people grapple with differing opinions among friends, family, and colleagues, and whatever else. And so a college group text evolving because no one can agree. Millennials walking on eggshells for fear of upsetting their Gen Z partners. Okay, fine. So God's dividing. Okay, he's not goodness, he doesn't put us to a test for the sake of just doing so. He wants us to choose which side we're on. Okay, so and then we have to cover one other little thing here. God does tear kingdoms away from leaders, okay, and pastors. So therefore, the Lord said to Solomon, because you have done this and have not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I commanded you, I shall surely tear the kingdom away from you and give it to your servants. Okay? So why? Wives, Okay, idols and turn from God. Okay, so it was torn away. And look down on the lower left-hand side, and you see Carl from, it doesn't matter which church he is. I mean, we're really not dealing with the individuals. We're just saying Carl had a little girlfriend, a Jewish girlfriend too, which was very interesting. And he got caught and kicked out. Carl Lenz, that was it. And then other people, accused of scams, accused of steamy affairs, accused of a 16-year-old affair, an affair with a 16-year-old, sexual assault, accused of COVID scams. These pastors are falling left and right. These are part of the curses, okay? And so I say it's part of the end times. Now, this is also, once again, I'm a free willer, okay? So I never got along with John Piper. I happened to work in the same town as him, and I happened to start Beth Hesed in a building with a Calvinist church plant. And so I purposely mocked them by mocking myself. And I said, well, I'm the ugly stepchild, I'm the redheaded stepchild. And the other pastor looked at me like, and he wouldn't answer it. He just kind of smiled, like, "Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's how I feel about you." you know. So anyway, John Piper embraces replacement theology known as supersessionism. All followers of Yeshua, only followers of Christ, will inherit the earth, including the land. So these promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, nah, they're done. It will only be inherited as an everlasting gift, only by the true spiritual Israel, not by the disobedient and unbelieving Israel. Whoa, okay. So thank you, John Piper, for that. So he's quoting Justin Martyr. That's fine. A church father from the 2nd century. This is an article from First Fruits of Zion. They're messianic like I am. They are very close friends of mine. I love them dearly. So the main thing is this is all spiritual. I'll state it until I'm blue in the face. Hitler never walked up to any Jew and said, "What type or level of faith are you?" No, he just said, "Shoot him." That's it. Okay. And the gypsies the same way. Okay. So Piper was, this is me being mean. Sorry. Piper was predestined to choose against Israel. Sorry. Had to do that. And then the figurine next to Piper's face, yeah, that's mean, that's nasty, but here's the problem. He's on their side, okay? And you know exactly what that figurine looks like just to the left of Piper's head. So basically, my answer to Piper in the first place is with Calvinism and all that, and he's a full 5-point Calvinist. He believes in once saved, always saved. For those of you that believe in that, just read Revelation 3, 4 through 5. Nevertheless, you do have a few people in Sardis who have not soiled their clothes, and they will walk with me clothed in white. I preach that every week. Clothed in white, not naked, clothed in white, because they are worthy. He who wins the victory will, like them, be dressed in white clothing. I preach it every week. And I will not blot his name out of the book of life. In fact, I will acknowledge him individually before my Father and before his angels. Every year, going into Yom Kippur, we do not want to be blotted out of the book of life. So that is losing your salvation. And Piper could always argue, well, you never had it. Well, obviously, that's not the case over here. They had their salvation, and then he will not blot them out because they kept their faith. They were steadfast. So anyway, a lot of pastors are falling. This isn't about the individual pastors. This is just the first fruits of scandals everywhere. Julie Roy's upper right-hand side has been chronicling this for years. We talked about Zacharias. MacArthur I don't really bring up very often, but he has just been nasty to women. He has forced a woman to move back in with her husband after he sexually abused their children, things like that. And he called her out from the pulpit. So did Piper, actually. I have friends that were called out from the pulpit in a sermon by Piper. So Driscoll, ugh, Hillsong, there's Bethlehem. That is Piper's place. Moody has had some problems lately. If you want to study gambling, that's really mean. But the problem is Jerry Jenkins, James McDonald, heavy gamblers, heavy. And there's James McDonald on the lower left-hand side. Then there's IHOP with Mike Bickle. It's not about, and there have been a lot of Calvary Chapel pastors falling. That's not about it. And it's not about the NAR people, the hyper-charismatic, saying things like, God took her to the Garden of Eden and she met Eve. Okay, thanks, Ann Latour. Wacky Pastrix says God teleported her to the Garden of Eden where she spoke with Eve. Thank you, Protestia. On the other side here, Jeremiah Johnson. What to do when prophecy goes wrong? Well, it goes wrong a lot with him. You know, he prophesied that Trump would be reelected. Well, that didn't happen. And then Robin Bullock down below. Trump beat Biden back in office. Well, guess what? He lost. And Robin Bullock, you are wrong frequently. So it's not about that. And it's not about the cash cows in NAR that bring in tons of money. You know, Cindy Jacobs, Bill Johnson, Dutch Sheets, Chuck Pierce. This video isn't about it. Nor on the right hand side, the guys that just attack the NAR people and really attack any moves of God's Spirit. And that would be Chris Roseborough. And he's from Minnesota. He's up north of me here. So his bingo is fun to watch. I must admit, that side of me enjoys watching his bingo videos, but the problem is he attacks everything, and he mocks, and he laughs and mocks and mocks and laughs, and that's not how you're supposed to do it. So you're supposed to take these people aside and talk to them, which I'm not doing right now. But the video isn't really about all of that stuff. It's more about the separation coming up. So I would normally like Kurt Landry, but the problem is you can't bring in Robert Henderson. And Robert Henderson believes that he knows the inside story of the courts of heaven. Well, he doesn't. Okay, he's not been there. Same thing with the people on the right-hand side. The power of ruling from the court of heaven system. They don't know. They don't know. Greg and Val, they don't know. On the other hand, down below, we've got the cessationists like Jeffress. And he is all American and everything's red, white, and blue. And he worships the God of red, white, and blue. Or maybe, and you know I'm a conservative, so I'm going to end up voting for the conservative candidate regardless. I'm pro-life, okay? Can't change that. So I would vote for the T guy, you know. But this isn't what we're all about. We're about God, not like when Joshua ran up to the angel and said, which side are you on? And you want to be on God's side. Okay, my only other comment on the right-hand side is with the Graham family. Franklin advertises himself more as the CEO of Samaritan's Purse and the Billy Graham evangelical campaigns. So, CEO, what's up with that? We've never been to that low level of describing that you're mostly the CEO. So really now let's get into it here and look at the separation and get into Ezekiel. I want you to see the context of it, then we'll jump in and be more specific. So Ezekiel 33 is really about prophets and prophecy and how this particular Ezekiel was supposed to prophesy the warning, okay? And so there, you know, Ezekiel 13 and 33 and Deuteronomy 13 and 18 and things like that. They're all about false prophets. And so 33 just continues on with that. Then 34 goes into what we're going to deal with today, which is the shepherds that are bad and the shepherds that are good, and dividing those two. And then the sheep that are bad and good, and dividing the sheep, okay? And then you move, and we'll cover that more, obviously. That's the video. So Ezekiel 35 is more about Edom, which is Esau, which is southeast kind of Jerusalem, and it is where people that hate the Jews are from, and that would be Amalek. So when you look at the problems going on right now in Israel, that's really, that chapter is dealing with it. It's like a precursor to Isaiah 63, where Yeshua goes down there, slaughters them, then comes back up and starts going after Gog and Magog. Okay, 36 is more about Jeremiah 31 and more about the new covenant, putting a new heart within you, new spirit within you, walking in the statutes and his judgments, things like that. 37 is about the bones, putting together the bones, and then 38, 39 is Gog Magog. What I'm giving you the context on is that this all sets off into the end times, and it's a Jewish look at the end times. So we are dealing with Ezekiel 34 and the shepherds and the rams or the sheep that are being separated. Okay, so let's dig through a little bit of this and then try to jam this into Revelation and see if it works. The word of Adonai came to me, human being, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy. Tell them, the shepherds, that Adonai Elohim says this: woe to the shepherds of Israel who feed themselves. Shouldn't the shepherds feed the sheep? You eat the choice meat and clothe yourselves with wool, and you slaughter the best of the herd, but you don't feed my sheep. Ezekiel 34, 1 through 3. That's a division. He's telling you that if you're, and there are good pastors, obviously, but there are bad ones. He will divide this, okay? And he's going to come against them. So woe to the shepherds. And he will set up one shepherd, my servant David, and he will feed them, and he will feed. So that's later on in Ezekiel. This is part of the curse, the division itself. And so I believe that this is based on the return of Israel, and it's there in Ezekiel 34. For here is what Adonai Elohim says: I'm taking over. I will search for my sheep and look after them myself, just as a shepherd looks after his flock when he finds himself among his scattered sheep. So I will look after my sheep. I will rescue them from the places where they are scattered or were scattered. When it was cloudy and dark. I want you to see that. That's RFL. That's very similar to Amos 5:18. And the day of the Lord is a dark day, RFL, thick blackness, okay? And so he's saying scattered when it was cloudy and dark. He's making a reference to the end of days. I will bring them back from those peoples, gather them from those countries, and return them to their land. Then I will let them feed on the mountains of Israel, by the streams, and in all the livable places of the land. Ezekiel 34, 11 through 13. That's Aliyah. And really, it's setting up for the Gog-Magog war. So there's a purpose to all of this. They have to return. And logistically, it takes time. So look forward to the Aliyah, and look forward to the persecution against Jews that's occurring in the world today to drive them back to Israel, because God wants them back. That's a blessing, believe it or not. Okay, so let's continue on, and let's look at the separating the sheep from the sheep. So, as for you, my flock, Adonai Elohim says this: I will judge between sheep and other sheep, between rams, all clean animals, between rams and billy goats. Wasn't it enough for you to feed in the best pasture and drink from the clearest water? Did you not have to trample the rest of the pasture and foul remaining water with your feet? So now my sheep eat what you have trampled with your feet and drink water fouled by your feet. Therefore, here is what Adonai Elohim says to them: I will judge between the fat sheep and the thin sheep. He's doing the judging, and I think it's occurring right now. Now, first he will judge the shepherds, then he'll judge the sheep. You want to be the thin sheep, which means that you're taking your walks, and the fat sheep are pushing you out of the way, and it's all, the money side of churchianity. Okay, so he will judge between the fat sheep and the lean sheep at some point in time. I think it's starting to occur. And I'm going to try to drop that into Revelation in just a little bit here. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but this is 2008. This is Lee Grady. And I'm calling shenanigans on him because Lee has pushed some of the most wicked NAR people on us since 2008, and he's saying, well, we need a revival. We need a desperate cry for revival. Well, the problem is, he says we need the fear of God, but not from the people that you're pushing, Lee. Integrity and purity in the church, but not from the people you're pushing. We need a Holy Ghost house cleaning. Well, you won't call evil evil or good good. You won't. It's all whatever. It's part of the curse. Okay, return to evangelism. What does that mean? You keep on pushing Katie Souza and Patricia King on us. These are wicked people. They're not godly leadership, that's for sure. They're money grubbers. And a national spiritual awakening. Lee, you're pushing this stuff, but the problem is you're pushing some of the most wicked people on us that we've ever seen across time. So, as we look at Ezekiel 34, let's try to drop this into Revelation. Does it match with the seven churches? Yeah, kind of it does. There's the good churches and assemblies, we'll call them, ecclesia, and then Laodicea, which is a problem because you are lukewarm, neither cold nor hot, I will vomit you out of my mouth. For you keep saying, I am rich, and I've gotten rich. I don't need a thing. You don't know that you are the one who is wretched, pitiable, poor, blind, and naked. Revelation 3:16 through 17. So, yeah, it kind of works, but I think what works better is Revelation. Well, this works kind of well. It's really when you have the persecution of the saints. And so that will drive people into one or the other camp. So this is Revelation 13, 7 through 10, which is the 666 verses, which come, and I'll show you that in a second. Just that will separate people, okay? It was allowed to make war on God's holy people and defeat them. It was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. Everyone living on the earth will worship it, except those whose names are written in the book of life, belonging to the Lamb slaughtered before the world was founded. Those who have ears, let them hear. If anyone is meant for captivity, into captivity he goes. If anyone is to be killed with the sword he is to be killed. This is when God's holy people must persevere and trust. That's a separation time frame, because the mark of the beast is coming very shortly, okay? So I wanted you to see that in terms of, I believe blockchain is part of this. The systems have to be built first. There's still logistics involved in the mark of the beast. And I also wanted to say part of the reason for that is, look at the words in Revelation 17. Nous is for the physical brain, and gnome is for the programming aspect of what the brain does and what the software programmers are doing. And that seems to set up Revelation 13 and the persecution that you're seeing right here. But this will divide us. And the timing of this seems to be about the midpoint of the Great Tribulation. Then continuing on, we see the timing of force taken to the mark. I'm saying the mid. About the mid. So another angel, a third one, followed them and said in a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast and its image and receives the mark on his forehead or on his hand, he will indeed drink the cup of God's fury, poured undiluted into the cup of his rage. He will be tormented with fire and sulfur before the holy angels and before the Lamb. Okay, so I'm saying that's about at the midpoint after the fifth trumpet, and what I'm saying is you can't take the mark. You just can't. And so I'm thinking that that will separate, obviously, between the people taking the mark of God and the people taking the mark of the beast. And so you'll know it. You'll see more of the separation before that time, but it will increase at that point in time because you won't be able to go back. Once you take the mark, it's done. You're going to be tormented. Okay? And so now, this is the good mark, and it's an interesting time frame. First, we'll cover the mark that handles the 144,000. Then we'll go into Revelation 9. So Revelation 7 talks about, do not harm the land or the sea or the trees until we have sealed the servants of God on their foreheads. Yes, I'm telling you, it might be a Tav. It might be the Paleo Tav on the left-hand side. I'm saying that this specifically is counting the 144,000. They are the first fruits based on chapter 14. The first fruits, according to how we read the Bible, is always 2% of the total harvest. That means the total harvest is 7.2 million. But you have to subtract from the fact that Zechariah 13 says 2/3 are going to be wiped out and only 1/3 gets through. So that means you're starting with 21.6 million people, which is really just Jews. Okay, and then you get down to 7.2 million at some point in time, and that's your first fruits. So that is not the overall, that's not everybody, okay? So then let's look at everybody else. Then out of the smoke onto the earth came locusts, and they were given power like the power scorpions have on earth. They were instructed not to harm the grass of the earth, on the earth, or any green plant or any tree, but only the people who did not have the seal of God on their foreheads. I don't know what that seal is, but it seems like it's a Tav. Based on this, sounds like Ezekiel 9:4. Okay, the locusts were not allowed to kill them, only to inflict pain on them for 5 months, and the pain that was caused was like the pain of a scorpion sting. Okay, so what I'm getting at is that's a separation, the final separation. You take the mark of God, or eventually you take the mark of the beast, which I showed you on the slide prior to this. So that seems to be what's going on. You choose your sealing of God, or you choose the 666, whatever that mark happens to be, of the beast. And I think it's based on how you feel about God's blessings, which is, I will bless those that bless you, but I will curse anyone that curses you. And by all the families of the earth will be blessed. Okay? So Netanyahu, I asked myself, how do you hold talks with the devil? I asked myself, how do you hold these discussions with the devil, a person who has no value for human life? But I was convinced that there was a way to rescue people from the devil's fingernails. That's Netanyahu. So the point is, that is the godly outlook. Whether you agree with Netanyahu on everything or not, that's a godly outlook. And so American Jews are failing to combat leftist Jew hatred. That's from World Israel News. And then personal and painful, how the Gaza war has split families, friends, and colleagues in Britain. Okay, so the point is, I think what is happening right now is the separation that's called for. First the pastors, then the sheep, we'll call them, which is the people, that occurs in Ezekiel 34. And I'm dropping it into Revelation based on you see it happen a little bit more, and then eventually it comes to the mark of the beast, or it comes to sealing with God. And right now we're starting to see the first fruits of that, okay, as we see so many people falling. So once again, we're in the birth pangs, probably in seal 4. I'm seeing some signs of seal 5, but that's about it. We're in the birth pangs. We are not in the tribulation. We are not in the great tribulation. We are in the separation point, and you should notice more of it. And the sealing point will come at some point in time. It's not there yet, but we should start to think about it being sealed for God. Okay? And so I preach it every week. Get your garments clean. That means you need to work on, on holiness and other activities that are godly. It's a wedding coming up. You'll be thrown out if you're naked or if you've got dirty clothes. Okay? So that's why I preach it every single week. Garments, garments, garments. Okay? And that's biblical. So I'll end up with one more verse here, and we are all done. And oh, you, my sheep, the sheep of my pasture, are people, and I am your God, declares the sovereign God. So basically, that's the end of Ezekiel 34. What I want you to see is that it'll come to the pastors first. Judgment begins in the house of the Lord against the pastors first. And you're seeing it right now. But eventually, you'll see the separation between the people and the people. And I think the dividing point is Israel, okay, and the Jewish people. Just bless them anyway, whether you agree or disagree. Be blessed. Bye.